Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today we're going to be taking a look at a mystery religion that had a pretty big impact on the Roman Empire, Mithraism.
Ooh, yeah, Mithraism.
But there's a twist.
Oh,
Mithra wasn't actually Roman.
really?
Yeah, his story starts way over in Persia.
Wow.
So we're going to try to figure out how he ended up so popular with the Roman legions and all the rituals and symbols that made this belief system so interesting. So yeah, it should be a fun one.
I'm excited. What I think is really cool about Mithra is how he changed when he went from Persia over to Rome. Like, it wasn't just a change of scenery.
Right.
In Persia, he was all about light and truth, kind of philosophical stuff.
Yeah.
But when the Romans got a hold of him, they were way more interested in things like courage, virtue, and loyalty.
So they kind of remade him in their own image.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it really shows how cultures like to adapt and reinterpret deities to fit their own needs.
That's a good point. But why those qualities specifically? Courage, virtue, loyalty.
Well, think about the Roman legions. They were soldiers facing danger all the time. Tough conditions, the threat of death. It was brutal.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mithra, with his new focus on courage and loyalty, suddenly became the perfect god for them to follow.
Right. It makes total sense. He was like a divine reflection of their own values.
Exactly. He wasn't some distant, abstract deity. He was someone who embodied the traits they needed to survive and thrive.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I know that Mithraism is known for its strong imagery. Like, we often see Mithra with a torch and a dagger. What's the deal with that?
Oh, yeah, those symbols are super important for understanding this whole belief system.
Okay.
Imagine you're a Roman soldier right in the thick of battle. Chaos everywhere. The outcome is uncertain. You're surrounded by enemies.
Not a good place to be.
No, not at all.
No.
You'd be looking for something, anything to guide you, to protect you. And that's where the torch comes in. It represents light, knowledge, guidance. A beacon of hope in all that darkness.
Right. I can see that.
And then you have the dagger. It symbolizes strength, power, overcoming obstacles. Everything a soldier facing constant threats would want.
So these symbols weren't just random images. They had real meaning for these soldiers.
Exactly. They were tangible representations of the qualities they needed to survive.
That's really interesting. And there's also that image of Mithra emerging fully armed from a rock. What was that about?
Oh, right. It's a pretty powerful image, right?
Yeah, like he's born ready for battle.
Haha, yeah. Basically, it represents spontaneous strength and purity, the ability to rise above any challenge. For a Roman soldier, that image would have been super powerful.
It's like the ultimate symbol of resilience.
Exactly. And don't forget, it speaks to their core values, strength and unwavering resolve.
Okay, now we can't talk about Mithraism without talking about the bull, right?
A Tauroctony.
Yeah, slaying of the sacred bull. It all sounds pretty intense. What's the significance of this ritual?
Well, the Tauroctony is really at the heart of Mithraism. It's loaded with symbolism. This isn't just some random act of violence. It represents a profound cosmic struggle.
Oh, wow.
The bull is this symbol of raw power, the untamed forces of nature. And Mithra, capturing and sacrificing it, represents bringing order to that chaos, harnessing that power for something greater.
So it's like imposing control over these powerful forces, something any soldier would relate to, right?
Absolutely.
But there's also the blood. What's the symbolism there?
Good question. The bull's blood spilling onto the earth is all about fertilization and the renewal of nature. A pretty powerful metaphor for the cycle of life, death, and rebirth.
Right, I see that. Especially for Roman soldiers who are constantly facing death.
Yeah, exactly. This ritual would have been incredibly meaningful for them.
It's like they saw a direct connection to their own lives, always facing death, but also seeing the resilience of nature, this cycle of destruction and renewal. It must have been comforting in a way.
Definitely. There's a sense of psychological comfort there. A reminder that even in death, there's the potential for rebirth.
Now, I've always been curious about this. We see other animals in the Tauroctony too, right?
Yeah.
Like a dog, a snake, a scorpion. What are they doing there?
Each one has its own symbolic meaning.
Really?
The dog, usually shown lapping up the bull's blood, represents loyalty and the forces of good.
Okay.
The snake, which is sometimes wrapped around the bull, symbolizes the earth and its power to regenerate.
I see.
And then you have the scorpion, usually attacking the bull's genitals. It represents the forces of darkness and decay that need to be overcome.
So it's this epic cosmic battle playing out right there in the Tauroctony.
Exactly. It's a microcosm of the struggles these soldiers face every day. The fight against chaos, the forces that threaten their world, and the need for order and discipline.
It's amazing how much meaning is packed into this one scene.
I know, right?
All right, let's shift gears a little and talk about the connection between Mithra and Sol Invictus, the Invincible Sun. This seems like a pretty powerful pairing. What was the significance there?
By linking Mithra with Sol Invictus, the Romans basically supercharged his association with light, protection, and resilience.
Okay.
And this was huge for the soldiers. Think about it. You're stationed far from home, facing danger every day. The idea of this divine alliance representing strength and victory would have been really comforting.
It's like having a cosmic backup.
Yeah, exactly. And it also ties into this concept of loyalty and brotherhood, which were super important to Roman military culture.
Right. It's like the bond between Mithra and Sol Invictus is a reflection of the bond between soldiers, the loyalty they depended on to survive.
Precisely. It's this parallel that makes these abstract ideas relatable to their everyday experience.
Now, we've talked a lot about how Mithraism appealed to soldiers, but it wasn't for everyone, right? It was kind of an exclusive club.
That's right. Mithraism was what we call a mystery religion.
Okay.
It wasn't something you just kind of stumble into. It had a structured initiation process with 7 levels of spiritual advancement, each level representing a step closer to divine unity.
7 levels. That's intense. So it wasn't just about joining a religion, it was about joining this exclusive group.
Exactly. And that exclusivity created a sense of belonging and purpose for those who were initiated.
And I bet that feeling of exclusivity made it even more appealing.
Absolutely. Especially for soldiers who already had that strong sense of camaraderie from their legions.
So where do they do these secret rituals and initiations? What were the Mithraic temples like?
Well, the Mithraic temples, which we call Mithraea, were often located in caves or even built underground.
Really?
Yeah, which just added to the mystique.
Wow, that sounds super atmospheric. It's like something out of a movie.
Right. This setting also connected them back to the Tauroctony myth, which is said to have taken place in a cave.
Okay, so these Mithraeas weren't just places of worship. They were like portals to another world.
Exactly. A realm of mystery and symbolism. And for those initiated into Mithraism, entering these spaces would have been a really powerful experience.
It's incredible how these physical spaces can tell us so much about ancient beliefs and practices. It's like holding a piece of the past.
I know. It's amazing. And it makes you wonder what else is out there waiting to be discovered.
This has been fascinating. But all good things must come to an end, right?
They do, unfortunately.
What happened to Mithraism? Why did it start to fade away? It seemed like a perfect fit for the Roman military.
Well, a new faith was on the rise, Christianity.
I see where this is going.
Yeah, the growth of Christianity definitely played a role in Mithraism's decline. The Edict of Milan in 313 AD granted religious freedom to Christians, and later on, the Edict of Thessalonica in 380 AD made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire.
So Mithraism went from being this popular underground religion to facing competition from the most powerful force in the world.
Pretty much. It was a tough transition.
That must have been a blow for them.
Definitely, Mithraic temples were destroyed, their practices were outlawed, and their followers were persecuted. It was a pretty dramatic fall from grace for a religion that had once been so influential.
It's almost tragic. This vibrant faith with all its symbolism and appeal to soldiers was essentially wiped out by politics and a changing world.
It really is. It shows you how fluid history can be. What's popular one day can be forgotten the next. And new ideas can completely reshape the world.
That's a good point. But even though Mithraism is gone, its influence can still be felt, right?
Oh, absolutely. Some of its themes and symbolism pop up in other beliefs and practices throughout history. It's really fascinating.
It's like its spirit lived on in different forms. That's incredible. But for now, I think we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we have.
And I feel like I've learned a ton about this fascinating ancient religion.
Me too. It's amazing how much we can learn from something that existed so long ago.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
Anytime. This was great.
All right, everyone, stay tuned for the next part where we'll be exploring more of the rituals and beliefs of Mithraism. It's going to be awesome.
Okay, so let's get back into those rituals and beliefs that we were talking about. Remember the 7 levels of initiation?
Yeah, the 7 levels.
Well, each one of those levels was linked to a specific planet and a set of trials and teachings that went with it.
Wow, 7 levels. That sounds like a serious commitment. What were those trials like?
Well, we don't know all the details.
Why not?
Because Mithraism was a mystery religion. Remember, a lot of their practices were kept secret.
Right, of course.
But we know that they involved testing your physical and mental endurance, symbolic rituals, and learning more and more about the cosmos and the mysteries of the faith.
So it was a journey of personal and spiritual growth. It's almost like an ancient self-help program.
Uh-huh. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Each level brought you closer to understanding, like, the real nature of reality.
Yeah.
Your place in the cosmos, your connection to the divine.
Whoa, that's pretty deep.
Right. It was about going beyond the physical world and reaching a higher level of consciousness.
I can see how that would be appealing to Roman soldiers. Their lives were full of conflict and death, so it makes sense that they'd be searching for something more, something to give their lives meaning.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Mithraism offered them a path to something bigger than themselves, a way to find purpose in a world that could often feel pretty meaningless.
And let's be real, that whole secret society thing must have been pretty alluring, too.
Oh yeah, for sure, especially in a society like Rome that was so structured and hierarchical.
Right, being part of this secret group with its own rituals and knowledge, that would have set them apart.
Totally. And for soldiers who were already part of a tight-knit group, their legion, Mithraism just amplified that sense of belonging.
Like a brotherhood within a brotherhood. That's cool. But, okay, if it was so secret, how did they actually recruit new members? They couldn't exactly put up flyers, could they?
Uh-huh. No, not really.
Yeah.
It was mostly through word of mouth. Soldiers would tell their friends about this faith that offered them support and guidance, and because it was a mystery, it had that air of intrigue.
So the more mysterious, the more appealing.
Pretty much. That element of secrecy was a big draw. And once you were in, you were sworn to secrecy to protect the sanctity of their rituals.
So it wasn't just about joining a religion, it was about joining a whole new world with its own rules and traditions.
Exactly. And that sense of belonging would have been especially powerful for soldiers far from home, facing danger and uncertainty all the time.
Makes sense. Okay, so we talked about the rise of Christianity as a factor in Mithraism's decline, but can we dig into that a bit more? Why couldn't it, hold on, it seems so popular with the soldiers.
Well, as we said, Christianity had this message of universal love and salvation, which was very different from Mithraism's exclusive vibe.
Right, it was a much more open and inclusive message.
Yeah, exactly. And when it became the official religion of the Roman Empire, things got really tough for Mithraism.
Yeah, they basically became public enemy number one.
Yeah, basically. Their temples were destroyed, practices outlawed, followers persecuted. It was a rough time.
It's kind of sad, actually. This whole belief system with its cool symbols and rituals just wiped out.
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
reminds you that what's important one day can be gone the next. It's a good lesson about how history can change so fast.
Totally.
Yeah.
But even though Mithraism itself disappeared, its influence is still out there, right? Like some of its themes and symbols show up in other places.
Absolutely. The emphasis on courage, the battle between good and evil, the whole idea of spiritual enlightenment, these things are timeless. They resonate across different cultures and time periods.
It's like these ancient beliefs leave little clues behind that we can still find today. It makes you wonder what else is out there.
Right. And that's what makes exploring history so exciting. There's always something new to learn.
I totally agree. Now, we've talked about Mithraism being this mystery religion, but we also have some archaeological evidence, right? What have we learned from that?
Oh yeah, archaeological evidence is super important. We found Mithraic temples, the Mithraea, all over the Roman Empire. And they've given us some incredible artifacts, sculptures, inscriptions, even leftovers from their ritual meals.
Wow, it's like taking a trip back in time. What were these Mithraea like? Can you describe one?
Okay, so picture a dimly lit chamber underground. Often you had to go through a narrow passage to get there.
Sounds mysterious.
Right. And along the walls, there would be these elaborate carvings showing scenes from the Tauroctony. At one end of the chamber, you'd find an altar, usually with a statue of Mithra killing the bull.
It must have been an intense experience to be in one of these temples.
It would have been. They weren't just places of worship. They were like gateways to another world full of mystery and symbolism.
It's amazing how these places can teach us so much about the people who were there. It's like we're putting together a puzzle using pieces from the past.
It's like detective work. And each new discovery helps us understand Mithraism and its impact on the Roman world even better.
You mentioned inscriptions. What kind of stuff do they tell us?
Oh, they're full of interesting info.
Hmm.
Some are like thank you notes to Mithra, expressing gratitude for his protection.
Okay.
Others list the names of initiates, which gives us clues about their social structure.
Mm.
And some even have pieces of hymns or prayers, which give us a glimpse into their beliefs.
It's like they're sending us messages from the past.
Yeah. Their voices from another time, sharing their thoughts and beliefs directly with us.
It's incredible how much we can learn from these little details. But let's step back for a second. What does Mithraism tell us about the Roman world and people in general?
That's a great question. I think one thing it shows us is that even in a huge and powerful empire like Rome, people were still searching for something more. They wanted meaning, purpose, a sense of belonging.
Right, they needed something to believe in.
Exactly. And Mithraism, with its emphasis on courage and the fight between good and evil, offered them a way to achieve that.
They were trying to figure out life, deal with war, and face an uncertain future. Mithraism gave them a way to do that.
And it reminds us that even though societies and beliefs change over time, people's basic needs stay the same.
We all want to feel connected and like our lives have purpose.
Exactly.
Wow, this has been eye-opening. I feel like I understand Mithraism so much better now.
Glad to hear it. But there's still so much more to explore.
Oh, like what?
In the next part, we'll look at the legacy of Mithraism, how it influenced later religions and cultures, and how its themes are still relevant even today.
Ooh, I can't wait. This is going to be good. Okay, so we've covered a lot about Mithraism, where it came from, those rituals, why it was so big with the Roman soldiers. But before we finish up this deep dive, I gotta ask, did this whole faith leave any lasting marks? Like on later religions or cultures?
Yeah, it's interesting how Mithraism kind of echoes through history. It might have disappeared as a separate religion, but you can still see its influence in a few ways.
Okay, I'm listening.
Like, some scholars think certain Christian practices might have been influenced by Mithraism,
Mm-hmm.
specifically celebrating Christmas on December 25th.
Really?
Yeah, it might be connected to the Roman festival of Sol Invictus, which, if you remember, was closely tied to Mithra.
Oh, yeah, right. So even though Mithraism faded away, some of its pieces might have gotten absorbed into other beliefs.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like it kept living on, just in different ways.
Are there any other examples of this?
Well, think about some of the big themes in Mithraism: courage, discipline, the battle between good and evil, the search for spiritual enlightenment.
Yes, okay. These ideas are, like, universal. They go beyond any specific religion or time period. You can see them in art, literature, philosophy, all through history.
Oh, that's interesting.
Take the classic hero's journey, for example.
Well,
The story where the hero faces trials, makes sacrifices, goes through some dark times before coming out stronger.
yeah, totally. That's like every other movie these days.
Haha, right. But it's a story that's told over and over again in so many cultures. And those themes really line up with the main ideas of Mithraism.
So you're saying these stories are tapping into something fundamental about being human, something that people related to way back then and still relate to now.
Exactly. It just shows that even ancient beliefs can teach us things about the human experience that are still important in the modern world.
I like that. That's a good takeaway. So Mithraism might be gone, but its message about resilience and this eternal fight between good and evil is still relevant.
For sure. And that's maybe the biggest legacy of Mithraism. It reminds us that the search for meaning and that fight between good and bad, those are things that'll always be part of the human experience.
Well said. This has been an incredible deep dive. We've gone from ancient Persia to the Roman Empire, learned about secret rituals, and uncovered the mysteries of a faith that was super important to so many people.
It's been a wild ride.
It really has. We explored all those cool symbols, the initiation process, and how it all eventually faded away. But the coolest thing is seeing how it still has meaning for us today.
Totally. And it makes you think, what other mysteries are out there waiting to be discovered?
Right. So to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep that curiosity alive. We'll see you on the next deep dive.